The entire Indian strategic design has failed totally. It's a thing of tremendous consequences. What they had built up as an anti-Islamic, anti-Pakistan thing collapsed. The Bengalis are better Muslims than we are. They're much more religious minded. They don't have firqas like we have. We cannot forget the past completely, but we have to put the past behind us and we have to look forward to what we can do without animosity towards India. If India does allow us transit through India, good. If it doesn't, good. What Bangladesh needs is a new crop of leaders, and there are many. We have to go back to 1971 when there was a very violent and bloody civil war in then East Pakistan, which led to the creation of Bangladesh on 16 December 1971. And obviously that was because the majority party in Bangladesh, the Awami League, was denied its power, which they had got by obtaining more than 50% of the seats. I don't want to go into the political and legal this thing of it, but just to say that this is a conflict that should not have happened. It could have been resolved, and even though the Bangladeshis insist that 300 million Bangladeshis died during that time, I think the figure, if you include pure Bengalis and also Biharis and other nationality, other West Pakistanis, I think about 300,000 people died. 300,000 is a large figure to have died in a space of 1 year. So I think if you look at it from that point of view, then fast forward to 1975, when Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who led at that time became the president of Bangladesh after 16 December 71, when he was assassinated in a coup, and then which led to some coups and counter coups. Ultimately, by the end of the year, a coup brought Ziaur Rahman to power. I said Ziaur Rahman did not lead the coup. It was a Sepoy-led coup which brought Ziaur Rahman to power. Ziaur Rahman thereafter became Chief Martial Law Administrator and stayed so till for a few years till he held elections which were free and fair, and he won the elections and became president of Bangladesh. And thereafter he was then assassinated 2-3 years later, again in an attempted coup. But the attempted coup failed, even though he was killed, and General Shah, who was the chief of army staff, took over. Even during General Ziaur Rahman's time, the rapprochement with Pakistan had started, and it was accelerated during General Shah's time. And this lasted through when General Shah went out of power 9-10 years later. Begum Ziaur Rahman, the widow of late Ziaur Rahman, came to power, and thereafter Hasina Wajid came to power. And it lasted throughout these years, and it lasted till 2008, 2009. Till that time, there was a golden period of Pakistan and Bangladesh because trade was there, direct flights were there, etc., etc. The second time Hasina Wajid came to power, of course, she came to power because of a major mistake on Begum Ziaur Rahman's part when she put 100 people into as candidates who were absolutely corrupt, and the people voted her out of power. So at that point of time, Hasina Wajid came to rule. But again, Hasina Wajid's rule, even during that time, she remained, even in her second tenure, she remained all right with Pakistan, and there was no great thing. But the reliance on India started more and more. India started asserting itself to the extent that they had people in every corridor of power, civil and military, civil administration and military administration. And with the result that people could not be promoted, people could not be posted, etc., without the concurrence of the Indian rep. And even though, and I must say this, even though there was a lot of development, a lot of progress, economic progress during Hasina Wajid's time, the people started getting more and more, hating her. And her regime became more and more repressive, even though technically it was democratic, but it became more repressive. And, people started disappearing, people started ending up in jails, and some people were executed also. So, there was a lot of bad feeling about this. During this time, India built up a propaganda wave against Pakistan, that Pakistan was responsible for everything, Pakistan had done the killings in 71, and it all culminated in 2021. In 2021, with the 50 years of 1971, the Indians went to town about the genocide, about this. In a strange way, what they did not realize is, because the people of Bangladesh started hating the regime and started hating India, because it was not a secret that India had that thing, etc. So anything that the Indians said was taken on the opposite side. As a matter of fact, Pakistan benefited, in a perverse way, benefited by this propaganda. So after 2021, it was just a question of time. How it came about, what the spark would be, etc. But there was genuine hatred. So, of course, I don't want to go into the people's movement. The people's movement started, etc. There was no doubt that the officer corps above the rank of major, once they were into staff college and all, at that point in time, as lieutenant colonels and above, India started interfering in their promotions also. So, even though they always to sift out people, they felt that they were pro-Islamic or pro-Pakistan, etc., etc., with the result that the higher element of the officer corps, was more or less only the ones who were screened by India. They may not have been pro-India, let me put it to you like this. They may not have been pro-India, but they were screened by India as to be not anti-Indian. Now, the Indians thought, now they've got the hold of the army, and frankly speaking, they did. What they did not contend with was the soldiers. They were not screening the soldiers. And the soldiers were from the stock, the native stock. And the soldiers grew up with a different opinion. And they did not like what was going on. And up to the rank of major. So, when the movement started, and and Hasina Wajid started cracking down with the police forces and her law enforcement, other agencies, ultimately the law enforcement agencies found themselves not able to handle it. They brought in the army. The problem was, up to the rank of major, it was passed on to the chief of army staff, who was appointed by Hasina Wajid, that we are not going to fire on our own crowds. They did not say anything else, but they said we will not fire on our own crowd. They didn't say remove her, they didn't say do that. They just said we will not fire. And, there's sort of a little bit of in many things that the General Bakir-ur-Zaman, who was the chief army staff, appointed only a month or so before by Hasina Wajid, went and said this thing. Now, must remember, even Bakir-ur-Zaman was son-in-law of a former chief of army staff, General Mustafizur Rahman, who was also East Bengal engineers actually, but served in the Pakistan army. So, he had a little bit of a background of the army. So, he got the sense of this thing that people are not going to support. So, when push came to serve, and she said, she actually asked for bloodletting in the streets. He said to her, this is not, we cannot do it. And he advised her to, leave in a nice way, and first of all, etc. But she was adamant, and she would not believe it. And she pressurized him. Even an hour before or 2 hours before, she said, and actually her sister went and sat in the helicopter. But she was not, she was insistent that no, because she was so confident that, she'll be. But ultimately, General Bakir-uz-Zaman prevailed on her that you must go. And some of her ministers prevailed on her. And so she left the country. And then the students who had led the revolt, the movement, they asked for a neutral person, and the neutral person they found was a man who was known as the banker to the poor, Muhammad Yunus, who had started Grameen Bank, Nobel Prize winner, Nobel Peace Prize winner. So he is now the chief advisor, right? And he's a man genuinely liked by everybody. Now, obviously, this was not to India's liking, because the entire Indian strategic design has failed totally. I mean, it's a thing of tremendous consequences. What they had built up as an anti-Islamic, anti-Pakistan thing collapsed. The Bengalis are better Muslims than we are. Let me tell you very frankly, they're much more religious minded. They don't have firqas like we have. We have too many firqas and things like that. They don't have firqas and all. But the point is, that thing completely collapsed. Now the Indians went on to overdrive. When they found that the army was not listening to them, they started this thing called, oh, these people are attacking. And it did happen, that Hindus were attacked at places. And some Hindus went over across. So they started propaganda that Muslims were killing Hindus, which of course now is not there, because, and the regime was new, they could not impose their thing, but now the situation is well under control. And Mr. Yunus has said that in a year's time they will have free and fair elections, and they will allow everybody to compete in the election. Then there is no doubt that Awami League has some support. But whether Hasina Wajid or her members of her family come back, I don't think so. Her son has no inclination of being in Bangladesh. Begum Zia's son is also the one who's alive, is in London. I don't know whether he'll come back. But the point is, it's good for Bangladesh, because what Bangladesh needs is a new crop of leaders. And there are many. They're very well educated, they're very informed. I'm surprised because the contact that I have and all that. I'm surprised by their the amount of education, the amount of experience, the amount of work they have done. And I look forward to the day. We can never be one Pakistan again, but we can be one country in a different way. We can be two countries, rather not one country, but two countries, Pakistan and Bangladesh. The vision that Quaid-e-Azam saw, two countries, one nation. Do away with visas, do away with tariffs, visa on arrival, no tariffs. We are one country. And by the way, Pakistan, at the height of the war in 1971, had 3.5 lightly equipped divisions in Bangladesh. When I say lightly equipped, they didn't have their full equipment. They were without their armor regiments, they were without the thing, etc., their light equipment, etc. Today, Bangladesh has got 10 divisions, out of which, and there are 2 independent armored brigades. About 90% of the border is India. So why have they got 10 divisions? Why have they got 10 divisions? So, frankly speaking, the vision that the Quaid-e-Azam thought about in 1946, it is on record, it's not something I'm making up. 2 countries, one nation. It still can become. We cannot, we have to, we cannot forget the past completely, but we have to put the past behind us, and we have to look forward to what we can do. Without animosity towards India. Without animosity towards India. We have a huge population, Muslim population in India, almost 250 million to 300 million people. Without animosity towards India, right? We should say, yes, We should say that India, and we should decouple ourselves from India. If India does good, good. If India does bad, that's not our concern, right? But we don't want to have a bad relationship with India. But if India does not want to have friendship with us, okay, so what? We can exist without relationship with India. In any case, with Bangladesh and with Sri Lanka and we used to have the trade through ocean-going vessels. We can revive that, right? If India does allow us transit through India, good. If it doesn't, good. But we should decouple ourselves not only for the sake of South Asia, but for the sake of the world. We cannot be India-centric anymore. We have a tremendous place in this world. We have a tremendous place in this world. Pakistan is one of the most potent countries in the world today. We just lack leadership and the element of compromise that we need to have within our political forces.